I'm Jed Oliver, here to read for you Chapter 4 from my story, Ben's World. If you haven't seen the first or read the first 3 chapters, they are available on YouTube. Just look up J.E. Oliver, Ben. Okay, here we go, Chapter 4. Verna, Ben, and their good friend Fred were seated at a table in Bud's Bar and Grill, enjoying mugs of Leinenkugel's beer. The bar wasn't crowded. There was a small party at one of the booths, a few people sitting at the bar, a guy in a dark suit alone at the table next to them. Now, Fred was an amateur paleontologist. Apparently, he loved old bones. But he had pictures of dinosaurs hanging all over his house. If anyone would be interested in Ben's vision, Fred would. Tell me again, asked Fred, where did you get this idea that there are dinosaurs in New Jersey? I had a vision, Ben replied. Ben has visions, said Verna. Ben took a sip of beer. Apparently, I have a gift. Well, would you like me to tell me about some of those visions? Asked Fred. Well, the conversation somehow seemed to interest the guy in the dark suit at the next table, because he quickly looked their way and then just as quickly turned away, looking nonchalant. He has them all the time, says Verna. Well, I've proven this stuff to myself. Ever since I decided to become a theoretical physicist, and I decided to specialize in quantum mechanics and parallel universes and stuff like that. The subject looks very promising. When did you decide to become a physicist? Asked Fred. It was news to him. Well, it was a couple days ago, said Verna, after he decided not to become a Hollywood sex symbol. The man in the dark suit extracted a small notebook from his pocket and appeared to be writing something. If they had been watching, they would have seen the man's cheeks start to twitch. Yesterday, out of a universe of choices, I chose to order a pepperoni pizza. Fred took a sip of beer and then he scratched his head. What, you call that theoretical quantum physics? Well, what else? Asked Ben. Well, what does that have to do with dinosaurs? Said Fred. Tell him about the cheese, said Verna. Suddenly, Ben felt a deep sense of gratitude toward Verna. Cheese? Asked Fred, ordering another round of beer. Well, I had this vision while I was thinking about becoming a theoretical physicist. And this takes us into a scientific and highly theoretical part. You sure you want me to go there, Fred? Well, sure. Don't forget, I'm a paleontologist, said Freddie, wiping the foam off his lip with the back of his hand. Well, okay. You ready? I'm ready. Ben tells this part really well, said Verna. Picture reality as a huge chunk of Swiss cheese, Ben said. The man in the dark suit looked up from his notes, apparently startled. His cheek began to twitch again. Swiss cheese? A huge chunk. The whole universe? Yeah, everything there is. All of reality. Have you got that pictured? Well, I'm trying, said Fred. You know, it takes a while to picture all of reality. Fred wrinkled his forehead as if straining his brain. Well, there's a lot of cheese in this huge block of Swiss cheese. But there's a lot of something else. Bacteria? Don't forget the bacteria. When you buy a chunk of Swiss cheese at your grocery store, they weigh it. But a big part of it can't be weighed. So you aren't charged for it, said Verna. Fred took a sip and then he scratched his head. Let me guess. The holes? Exactly. It's a case where the holes exist, but at the same time, they do not exist. Said Fred. Well, yesterday, if I hadn't ordered that particular pepperoni pizza, it would never have come into existence. Think about that. The space the pizza occupied would be non-existent. Consider this. The universe would be different than it now is. You're taking credit for changing the universe by ordering a pizza? Well, yes. Have you heard the famous story about Schrodinger's cat? Well, remind me, said Fred. Well, it's a story based in quantum physics. Almost drove Einstein crazy trying to tie it in with his theory of relativity, and it wouldn't fit. The Albert Einstein? Yes. You see, Schrodinger's cat could be both alive and dead at the same time. Well, how could that be? Well, quantum mechanics, quantum physics allows things to exist and not to exist simultaneously. Or one thing to exist in two places at the same time. Well, the man with the dark suit was writing now, rapidly. That sounds impossible. That's what makes it so fascinating, Fred. One particle can be in two places at the same time. Until we look at it. What then? Then it's either here or there. When we look, the cat is either dead or alive. Well, cats do that all the time. Well, yeah, but not both dead and alive at the same time like Schrodinger's cat before we looked at it. Our looking changes things. The man underlined something in his notebook. We better have another beer, said Fred. Now, how does this relate to reality being created entirely of Swiss cheese? Verna had a big smile. She understood the theory. Well, said Ben, I'm not claiming that we're all completely encompassed in Swiss cheese. I think the cheese is a perfect analogy. We think its solid part exists, but its holes do not, because the holes appear to contain nothing. But the holes also exist, although they appear not to. Now, that's a key question, said Ben. Is it possible for something which appears not to exist to actually exist through those invisible to us? Like the holes in a Swiss cheese, asked Fred? Yeah. And when we eat a cheese sandwich, do we eat around the holes? No. We ignore the holes. We don't spit them out like watermelon seeds. We don't even notice they're there. Fred scratched his head again. Well, what does this have to do with dinosaurs in New Jersey? Well, this part is where your brain has to kind of go over a mental speed bump. Well, remember, I said that all of reality is like a big block of Swiss cheese? Yes. The man in the dark suit had removed a telephone from his pocket, and he appeared to be sending a text message. His face was flushed, and his cheek was twitching. The solid part of the cheese is our own part of the multi-universe. Can you see where my logic is heading? No. Well, what about the holes? They exist, but we see nothing there. That's why there can be totally undiscovered, unexplored part of New Jersey. It exists in a hole. Fred looked puzzled. So how would we ever find it? Ben scratched his head. Well, I don't know that part. I'm still thinking about that part. Ben signaled the waiter. Please refill our mugs and bring us each an open-faced cheese sandwich on rye. Well, when they received the order, Ben stood and reached into his left front pants pocket and extracted a small plastic box. He opened the cover and he placed the box in the center of the table. This was his piece de resistance. Now, help me research this thing. He remained standing for this speech. Normally, when eating a Swiss cheese sandwich, we pay no attention to the holes. The holes are consumed along with the rest. This is our reality. Fred nodded. Verna smiled. This time, I want you to avoid eating the holes. When you arrive at a hole, very carefully eat around it, and then place the hole itself in this small box. We'll save them. Save. Remember, slowly and carefully nibble around each hole. And as each hole is fully exposed, carefully grasp it by its edges between thumb and forefinger and hold it over the box. Hold it by the edges? Asked Fred. Yes, because if you try to grasp a hole between the top and bottom, it'd be too easy to accidentally squish it. Well, Verna leaned closer to Ben and whispered in his ear, the guy in the dark suit appears to be photographing you with his phone. Ben turned toward the man, looking. You must be text messaging, he said. Verna looked suspicious. He's pointed it at you and clicked several times, she whispered. Fred hadn't noticed the attention they had been getting. What do I do now? Just drop it into the box? No. Keep in mind that as far as our reality is concerned, that hole is constructed entirely of air, which means if you let go, it'll simply float until some slight air movement causes it to drift away, and it'll be lost forever. So how do we make sure it goes in the box? Hold it directly over the box, and then using a small object like a ballpoint pen, push it gently into the box. Push it gently into the box. And don't cough or sneeze, said Verna. They ate very carefully, watching each small bite down with beer. By the time the sandwiches were finished, Ben knew the box was full. He replaced its top so nothing would be lost. The stranger appeared to snap another picture. Fred looked a bit confused. That's it? Yes. Well, Verna slowly shook her head. Tell him what's in the box, Ben. Ben hesitated, and he finally responded. Mysteries. Unknown, unexplored, indescribable mysteries. Use your imagination. Because we cannot see them. We dismiss them as mere holes. But those little bits of nothing you held in your fingers might, in an alternate universe, be anything at all. Perhaps entire new undiscovered worlds. The man's cheek twitched violently, but no one noticed. Well, what do we do with them now? Asked Fred. Well, maybe I'll keep them for a while. Fred looked puzzled. Why? Ben rubbed his chin. Verna was wondering too. Well, just because I can, I suppose. Fred looked puzzled. I'm not sure I understand the reason for this cheese experiment. Well, it simply demonstrates my vision, said Ben. Somewhere in New Jersey, there's a hole. Think of it as a defect in the fabric of space and time. And if that hole is large enough to pass through, we'd find a completely different reality on the other side. A place and time never seen by humans. A world of dinosaurs. The man in the dark suit stood, headed for the men's room, murmuring into his phone as he walked. Suddenly, a slight doubt entered Ben's mind. He wondered if there might be a flaw in his logic. Something seemed missing. A hole couldn't have seemed this ridiculous for Einstein or Schrödinger or all those other geniuses. Maybe he'd give some more thought at home, later tonight, after some pizza and another beer. That's the end of Chapter 4. Hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this story, I do have other stories available on Amazon. Just look up Jed Oliver on Amazon.com and you'll find my other books. So for now, I will just tell you, thank you very much for watching.